Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I'll try a flagship pair of IEMs from Westone. These are called MACH 80 and yeah, as reference grade IEMs, these will cost you a pretty penny, more exactly $1,600 or 70-50 euros here locally. I'll compare them with two equally impressive IEMs, I'll give you plenty of measurements and of course tons of subjective impressions. And without further ado, let's dive in and let's check what's the fuss about these IEMs. A flagship pair of IEMs demands a premium unboxing experience and Westone delivers that in spades. Once you remove the outer sleeve, the magnetic case opens up like a book, revealing an oversized Pelican, shockproof and waterproof case. The case is bigger than what I've experienced before, as we have a wider variety of accessories within. You can spot the IEMs themselves, a high-quality detachable cable, a wax removal tool, a carabiner, and of course a substantial number of ear tips that will fit any ear size. We have 5 pairs of silicone ear tips and a similar number of foam ear tips that will offer a better isolation from the outside world and therefore offer a better bass extension. The foam ear tips aren't your usual comply ear tips having an elongated design, and these were specifically designed for the MACH lineup. The stock cable is solid, and even if it might look fragile and thin, its tensile strength is very high, it's flexible and it lacks microphonics of any kind. It uses 224 strands of silver-plated copper Leeds wires, resulting in a very low 0.6 ohm impedance. You can get it separately for $199 and for the money you get a nice balance between comfort, presence and feel. As for tech inside them, MACH 80 uses a proprietary 8-driver system. These are balanced armatures, so we have dual lows, dual mids and 4 highs, and of course custom passive crossover that will be controlling all that bass, mid-range and treble. We have a sensitivity of 104 dB per a single milliwatt of power, so of course these are quite easy to drive, but don't mistake their sensitivity for how well they can sound with a better source. So of course they sounded pretty good with any headphone jack, but I believe with a dedicated DAC, with a dedicated DAC headphone amplifier, these will sound definitely better. Their 66 ohm impedance is slightly higher than usual, but that is music to my ears because some headphone amplifiers might have some noise floor. You can hear some hum with ultra sensitive and low impedance IEMs like High Zeta. For example, on the Hi-Fi Prelude I can hear a little bit of hiss, a little bit of noise with the High Zeta, but I cannot hear basically anything with the MACH 80. So of course you can use less than perfect sources, less than perfect portable digital audio players, less impressive headphone jacks from a laptop, from a tablet, and that wouldn't be a problem because forget about noises and all those hisses. There is one thing that IEM reviewers don't talk that often, and that would be comfort levels. Although these have 8 drivers per piece and a passive crossover, their body is much smaller than usual, much smaller compared to say High Zeta or FiO FX15. And these are made out of hard plastics, not out of metal, out of aluminum or titanium. So I can barely feel them in my hand, and of course I can barely feel them in my ears. This cable, it weighs 5 grams, so this is much thinner, much lighter weight compared to what I'm getting with High Zeta, and all of this info combined, I simply don't feel the gravitational pull when jogging outside, and overall these are some of the most comfortable IEMs I have tried in a very long time. Sound-wise, right from the get-go, a pair of IEM can impress you with a colored sound boosting one particular range in the frequency response, like the bass or the treble, for example. And although it's very fun at first, it's engaging, it's toy tapping, there is more air up top, there is more treble extension, so on, you start realizing that this is not how your music is supposed to sound. With reference grade IEMs, you need some time to start appreciating their skills, their honesty, their linear approach to frequency response, sounding more lifelike, more natural and linear at the same time, but not exactly as fun. Now, I have these for more than 3 months now, and I tried them with a bunch of DACs, headphone amplifiers, portable digital audio players, and finally I can understand their skills and their cons. There are several gaps and several rises happening in the frequency response, more exactly in the upper mid-range and also in the treble, but at the same time, that happens with most IEMs that I have tested around here. More importantly, the MACH 80 manages to balance the frequency response without becoming boomy in the bass, muddy in the mid-range, or ear-slashing in the treble. Listening to MACH 80 was quite an experience, and these are definitely very resolving sounding IEMs, and detail retrieval is definitely the biggest standout of these IEMs. Of course, for seasoned headphiles and IEM collectors, you'll feel that immediately, but that is very important also for musicians, for audio engineers, because you can hear so much more information behind your music, behind your mixes. What's more interesting is that no matter what music I used or what source, these were never clinical, harsh, or simply boring sounding. And when the timing gets right, the sound starts aligning perfectly, playing a crucial role in making these IEMs sound cohesive, pure, and unaltered. Another thing that impressed me right from the start was the ability to keep up with some of the most demanding tracks, be them crowded rock, or super fast electronica, or busy blues, or jazz tunes. So these were really very snappy, very fast. Actually, forget, these were lightning fast sounding, having a slightly shorter decay than usual compared to, say, hybrid or dynamic driver IEMs. So these are really snappy and very exact in terms of timing. Their pace, rhythm, and timing is very impressive. So yes, these are working extremely well with everything, but especially with modern tunes. They have two balanced armatures that are dealing with the bass, and there are many others that are using just one single balanced armature or maybe a dynamic driver for the bass. But these are definitely have that tight bass performance, so it's not only deep reaching or extended or punchy, but it's really tight and clean sounding in the bass, and therefore I believe the bass is of a higher quality compared to what I have around the house. Overall, these are incredibly fast. The transit response is impressive. Sometimes I wish for a slightly stronger kick in the bass, a stronger slam in the bass, but since they are responding quite well to EQ, you can use a mild EQ, something like 2-3 dB in the lowest octaves, or maybe you can use some fun sounding portable digital audio players. That's exactly why I've used this Shining M5 Ultra, because it adds a little bit of oomph in the bass, a little bit of life in the mid-range, and these are responding to that signal basically immediately. It's a bit crazy discussing about soundstage and imaging in a pair of tiny IEMs, and yeah, you'll be totally right. Although the sounds are not coming, bouncing off the walls, hundreds of sounds and hitting my body, I can still hear all those sounds coming from all around me, although I'm not listening with my entire body, but only with my ears. That is for sure. And of course, the music is not playing at an arm's reach like it happens with a few open back, dynamic or planar headphones. The sound is much closer to my face, although what I've observed is that the space in between the notes, the stereo separation, note separation is actually very impressive on these pair of IEMs. I think that the right word would be definitely stereo separation and not soundstage with these kind of IEMs. But still there is some of that air in between the notes, like I told you before. So definitely these don't sound like some entry-level pair or mid-level pair of IEMs. There is definitely more void spaces in between the notes. I'll later compare them with High Zeta, which I like very much, and also with Hifeman's Fanar. Those are very impressive, especially in terms of resolution and detail retrieval and soundstage and imaging, but these are more impressive in that regard. Actually, I didn't try every IEM out there, but from the ones that I have tried, these are definitely slightly more impressive in terms of stereo separation. So for me personally, I know that subjectivity plays a major role when doing such IEM reviews, but stereo separation 10 out of 10 on these headphones. You can definitely hear the music on different layers. There is so much space in between them and you don't need to stress yourself too much. Some of you might be wondering if these are reference grade or universal sounding IEMs. And that is a very good question. The MACH 80 is a reference grade IEM according to their maker that are sounding universal according to me. And let me explain you why. So these are not providing you that milk with honey presentation, but at the same time these are not boosting the treble and these are not offering me that listening fatigue of any kind. The music is really time aligned, so everything is syncing perfectly. So no matter what music you are listening to, nothing really feels out of place, fake or unnatural sounding. Those will not happen with these IEMs. This part is hard to control and to maintain, but I believe tens of decades of experience under the same banner have a lot to do with this. So in the end, these are reference grade IEMs that are sounding universal, and I believe that system matching is actually a very personal thing. In my case, I wouldn't use them with ultra-linear gear or with headphone amplifiers that heavily rely on negative feedback to bury the noise. Checking out the frequency response, the bass is there in right doses. It's linear, but it's not limited. It's tight, but it's not all over the place. So definitely, quality-wise, very impressive. I can hear those 20 Hz notes pretty easily on modern tunes. The bass is fun at the same time, but sometimes, as I told you before, I wish they will slam a little harder in the bass. But since they are responding very well to EQ, you can use a mild EQ or a more fun sounding little gizmo like I did with this Shinling M5 Ultra. If you want even more bass, then may I suggest going with those Mach 70. Those are more affordable and those are slightly more fun and slightly elevated in the bass region. A reference tuning might scare off a few potential buyers in terms of mid-range purity and presence. That's exactly why I've used this Shinling M5 Ultra that is changing their tonality a little bit. So the tone and timbre went from good to great in no time, adding just a little bit of warmth, a little bit of sweetness in the mid-range. And this is why I like to play with different sources, with different digital audio players, with IEMs. For example, 5M15S worked outstanding with Sennheiser IE900. Hibi R8 Mark II absolutely bonkers with their Zeta IEMs, and this Shinling M5 Ultra works outstanding with the Westone Mach 80. With my reference Head-Fi setup, which consists of a very good Roon server, R2R DAC, Class A and fully discrete headphone amplifier, these sounded even better, just simply freeing up the sound a little more for a more relaxed presentation. Some of the latest IEM releases of FiO and Hibi have a very good treble performance, mostly thanks to using an electrostatic driver that will be playing all that treble information. However, there is one big issue building with such IEMs. When you have different materials, very different drivers, you have a dynamic driver playing the bass, you have balanced armature drivers playing the mid-range, and electrostatic drivers playing the treble. So they have different materials, different impedances, different sensitivities. So you need to craft a very clever, a very good electronic crossover. But since you have so little space, it's really difficult making a really impressive electronic crossover. And that's why some of these IEMs will sound a little weird in the treble. For example, FiO FX15, very impressive in the treble, clean, detailed, a little bit sharp, but disjointed. This is where the music was playing and this is where the treble was playing. It was very disjointed, like it was a completely different entity. Luckily, that is not happening with the Mach 80, so the treble is extended, it's clean, it's resolving, but it's time aligned. So these will never sound metallic like a few hybrid IEMs. So this is everything I have to say about the frequency response. I measured them in a quiet environment and here is their raw frequency response. Take a look at that amazing driver matching, something that you don't see very often nowadays, and I don't think I've got a cherry-picked pair, if being completely honest with you. You can see their outstanding linearity from 20 Hz up to about 700 Hz, where things start to roll off slowly. The sub-bass looks perfect, and so does the mid-bass region. The mid-range is pretty good, even if it starts to ride a roller coaster. The signal starts to slowly roll off at 1 kHz, and at close to 2 kHz the signal loses 8 dB, hence having less energy in the upper mid-range. My test jig is not following the Harman curve, and the treble might look like it's going crazy, but I assure you that's normal behavior. The most sensitive part of our hearing, between 5 and 7 kHz, is elevated only by a single dB, so these will never sound bright or edgy, not even on angry rock tunes. If you want to know a little bit more, here is their distortion, spectral decay, spectrogram and waterfall, and feel free to pause at any point for a better analysis. Wrapping up, these can be fun and engaging with the right gear, and regardless of the source material used, these were always transparent, resolving, deep-reaching, airy sounding, having an amazing note separation, shrinking the gap between tiny IEMs and also medium-sized open-back headphones like Focal and Grado headphones, for example. And besides a gentle roll-off in the upper mid-range, there is close to nothing I can complain about these in terms of sound performance, instantly becoming my go-to reference IEMs from this point onward. At this point, I no longer find their plasticky shells to be a liability, but a strong asset if a worry-free comfort long-term is important to you. These tiny little things made a significant impression on me, and as a result, I'll be overlooking some of their cons, awarding them with my highest honors. This is it, thank you guys for watching. A much longer, in-depth review can be found below, please check that out, and in the usual fashion, please stay positive and keep your chin up. My name is Sando, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.